So we've been working to create contracts that business owners will be able to use to raise funds to expand their businesses, as well as giving customers the opportunity to invest in their businesses. Now, this will open up a lot of doors for being able to put money into local communities. However, many business owners, rightfully so, are concerned about the financial aspects when it comes to legalities. Now, the SEC technically has classified NFTs as a security from my understanding. However, there are some things to know when it comes to releasing these projects that can give business owners a little bit more peace of mind before rolling into a project. So just to catch you guys up, I'm going to screen share on my phone the conversation that I had earlier with AI. So the first thing I had asked was for it to teach me about unregistered securities. Given the process of getting something secured, can it be done? Yes. And will it be done for large scale projects? Most likely. However, for some of the first initial projects, I'm not sure if we're going to go that route. We might go the unregistered route. So this is what the AI had to say about it. So it said unregistered securities are financial instruments that have not been registered with the SEC, understandably so. Here are some key points about unregistered securities. So the first thing, it gives us the definition, which is just talking about, again, the fact that it has not been formally registered under the process that companies go through to be able to sell a registered security. Now, there are exemptions, which is what I was more so interested in. And so it says certain securities may be exempt from registration under certain conditions. Common exemptions include private placements under Regulation D, intrastate offerings, and offerings to accredited investors. So essentially, what that means is accredited investors, if someone has over $1 million in net worth or they're earning $200,000 a year for the last 2 or 3 years, they're able to be classified as a accredited investor, which just means there's going to be less rules and restrictions when selling something to them. Now, Regulation D, I was interested in, and we'll get into that in a second. But essentially, this is going to be encompassing, if you don't go the registered route, the different requirements that are going to be in place for you to meet. And some of that is going to vary state to state, but typically there are different avenues you can go, both for accredited and non-accredited investors. So again, we'll get into that in just a second. Number three, risks. So investing in unregistered securities can be riskier than investing in registered securities. That's a given. These investments may lack transparency and disclosure that registered securities are required to provide, making it harder for investors to assess the value and the risks. Now, as far as the projects we're going to make, the risk is going to be on the founder, right? If you're working with a shady person who doesn't have much of an online presence, doesn't have much background in business, then the risk is going to be higher than working with someone who's been in business for 30, 40 years. They've got a long track record, they've got a very reputable company, and they've built a strong reputation for themselves as a person. So you're going to need to, again, look into the person behind the project that you're interested in investing in. But again, this comes down to just being selective and being smart with who you are choosing to put your money towards. Now, liquidity. So, unregistered securities often have lower liquidity, meaning they can be harder to sell compared to registered securities. We eliminate that problem with the fact that all this is done on chain. Five, regulatory compliance. Companies issuing unregistered securities must still comply with anti-fraud provisions of the security laws. Of course, we want to do good business, so understandable. They cannot mislead or deceive investors, and they must provide adequate information for potential investors. So again, we're doing all of this. Within the front end that we're setting up, it's going to have all the information on the company, the founders, and essentially how that money is going to be allocated once it is raised by the person or people behind the project. Now, six, investor protection. The SEC and other regulatory bodies have established rules to protect investors from fraud in the sale of unregistered securities. Investors should be cautious and conduct thorough due diligence before investing. This goes with anything, but again, this is going to be key for mitigating risk when it comes to looking into the people behind the projects you are looking at. So whether you choose to go through a project like what we're building, or you decide you want to try to find something on chain that is put out by anybody, you need to understand who is behind the project you are curious about. Seven, finally, potential returns. So while unregistered securities can be riskier, they may also offer the potential for higher returns, particularly if the company grows significantly or if the securities are in the form of options or other equity-like instruments. So as far as profitability, I mean, there's a lot of things we can really do with the tech that we've built, and the profitability will be there. But again, are we going to go the registered route for the very first project? It depends on who I am working with as clients. So this is where we had started off the conversation. I wanted more clarification on Regulation D, given I hadn't heard about it. And so I had asked it about it. I asked, tell me more. And what it had said is Regulation D is a set of rules established by the SEC, which provides exemptions from registration requirements for certain security offerings. So this regulation is particularly important for small businesses and startups looking to raise capital without the cost and complexities associated with full registration. Here are some aspects of Regulation D. So number one is exempt offerings. So Regulation D allows companies to offer and sell securities without having to register them with the SEC if they meet certain criteria. Most commonly used exemptions under Regulation D are Rule 504, 505, and 506. So Rule 504, to start off, this rule allows issuers to raise up to $10 million in a 12-month period from an unlimited number of accredited and non-accredited investors. However, companies must comply with state securities laws, which may impose additional requirements. So, given the size of some of these projects, this is nice to hear. Next, Rule 505. Under this rule, companies can raise up to $5 million in a 12-month period from an unlimited number of accredited investors and up to 35 non-accredited investors. The company must provide specific disclosures to non-accredited investors. So this, again, it still fits within the parameters that we're looking at. And even if we did a $1.2 million project for our first, if we were to even just raise this across 35 non-accredited investors, what are we looking at here? We would be looking at $35,000 a head, which ain't bad. Now, if we were to also include within this metric, let's say we got this up to 60, 25 being accredited, 35 being non-accredited, then we are looking at 20K. So that's very solid. And given, I mean, 20K and 35K, they're still within the same price range that the same demographic would pay for. We'll still decide what we're going to actually sell these NFTs for. But again, it comes down to who we're working with and the direction they're wanting to go. So Rule 506. This is the most widely used exemption under Regulation D. It has two subcategories. Rule 506B allows for an unlimited amount of capital to be raised from an unlimited number of accredited investors and up to 35 non-accredited investors, but generally solicitation and advertising is prohibited. So given the direction we're wanting to go, I mean, I don't know what that all entails because for one, I would be approaching people face to face as far as people within door-to-door opportunities. And two, I mean, I would like to be able to have some stuff online. So we'll have to still explore with these different categories, but 506C says allows issuers to use general solicitation and advertising to market the offering, but all investors must be accredited and the issuer must take reasonable steps to verify their accredited status. So, as far as raising the money for a plane, we definitely are there. I mean, we could raise, I mean, given the tickets are going to be like 100K each anyways, I don't think we're going to have anyone else other than accredited investors to provide this to. So this is good for what we're looking at as far as the jet. As far as the other projects, we still will need to explore. But number five, accredited investors, and accredited investors typically defined as, like I mentioned, the whole over $1 million in net worth, 200K for the last 2, 3 years, da 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 da. Form D filing. Companies that conduct offerings under Regulation D must file a Form D with the SEC, which provides basic information about the offering. This form must be filed within 15 days of the first sale of securities. 7, state compliance. While Regulation D provides a federal exemption, issuers must still comply with state security laws, which may require additional filings and disclosures. And then 8, the last piece is investor protection. So, although Regulation D offerings are exempt from registration, issuers still must adhere to anti-fraud provisions, ensuring they do not mislead investors or provide false information. So, Regulation D provides a crucial role in facilitating capital formation for companies while providing certain protections for investors. It's essential for both issuers and investors to understand the nuances of exemptions to navigate the fundraising landscape effectively. So, like I had mentioned, there are opportunities for us to release these projects, both being registered and unregistered. We just need to become more familiar with the laws, given we live in the state of Florida. I would hope to imagine that they are not super restrictive given the nature of Florida, but we will have to do some more exploration to understand more of the nuances, like I mentioned with Regulation D. But this is very encouraging because it does look like for the type of products that we're going to be selling, given we're selling these mostly to people with significant amount of capital, we are in the clear as far as being able to deal with legalities. So I'll be doing some more homework on the rules and regulations when it comes to Florida requirements. But with that being said, I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.